What we call lust often enters our lives not as a monster, but as a mirage, beautiful, promising, and lethal. We don't fall into lust like falling into a pit. We walk toward it, eyes half closed, heart half empty, hoping it will finally give us what the world has refused: to be seen, to be wanted, to be touched. Lust is not merely a craving for bodies. It is a craving for transcendence through another. It seduces not just the flesh, but the parts of us we feel ashamed of. It promises to make us feel divine, by giving us the illusion of total surrender, and the illusion of total control. But here's the problem. Lust imitates love with dangerous precision. It mimics the gestures. It echoes the passion. It borrows the words, but empties them of meaning. Love sacrifices. Lust consumes. Love sees you. Lust uses you. Love slows down time. Lust speeds it up, rushing toward climax, toward the edge, never wanting to pause, because in the stillness, lust dies. And yet, we run toward lust like it's salvation, because it's easier to feel wanted for an hour than to feel invisible for a lifetime. This is the trap. Lust doesn't just promise pleasure. It promises identity. And in a world where so many feel unseen, to be desired becomes proof that we exist. But that kind of validation comes at a cost. A subtle, soul-wounding cost. It starts small. You begin to seek excitement instead of depth, seduction instead of sincerity. You start to confuse attention with affection, and chemistry with compatibility. And one day you wake up, surrounded by lovers, but starved of love. This is the hidden violence of lust. It fills your mouth while leaving your soul hungry. It touches your skin while abandoning your essence. And it doesn't stop there. When you begin to identify with your desirability, you become addicted to performance. Every glance becomes a test. Every silence becomes rejection. Every mirror becomes a battlefield. You start to live in constant seduction, but die a little more every night. Because no one is loving you. Only your mask. And so begins the cycle. The more you lust, the more you ache. The more you ache, the more you chase. The more you chase, the more you lose yourself. Until one day, you no longer know the difference between who you are and who your lust made you become. This is not weakness. This is human. But it is also dangerous. Because what begins as desire can end as destruction. And what you thought was love was only loneliness in disguise. The roots of lust in the human psyche. Lust is not a sin of the flesh. It is a cry from the soul. To understand lust, we must first forget what we've been told. That it is just about bodies. Just about sex. Just about pleasure. No. Lust is not born in the loins. It is born in the wound. In the unmet need. In the forgotten child within us who still longs to be touched. Not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, existentially. Lust is the symptom. The root is abandonment. You were left unseen, unheard, unheld, and somewhere deep inside, your psyche began to believe, if I can make someone want me, maybe I'll finally be safe. This is the origin of so many of our compulsions. Not just lust, but addiction, perfectionism, performance, control. They are not problems. They are strategies. Desperate, ancient strategies. To escape the pain of being unloved. Lust, then, becomes a doorway. Not into pleasure, but into memory. When you ache to be desired, ask yourself, what part of me was never chosen? What part of me still cries in silence? What part of me is begging to be held, not for what it offers, but simply for what it is? The reason lust is so powerful is because it hijacks your deepest need, the need to be known, and attaches it to a counterfeit solution, being wanted. But being wanted is not the same as being known. Being craved is not the same as being loved. And being pursued is not the same as being seen. Our culture doesn't teach us this. It teaches us to seduce, to accumulate attention, to perfect our image. We are trained to market our bodies, but not to understand our souls. And so we build temples of flesh. with no God inside. Let's go deeper. According to Carl Jung, every instinct has a shadow. What you repress does not disappear. It hides and grows stronger in the dark. In many people, lust is not just tolerated. It is secretly worshipped. Because it gives them something they cannot find in daily life. Power, significance, intensity. And this is key. Lust thrives not because we are immoral, but because we are starving for something real in a world of masks. Lust becomes the last place where we feel alive. Why? Because it shatters the polite, lifeless roles we're forced to play. It strips away social filters. It awakens the animal in us, the rebel, the wild divine. But when this energy is unconscious, it becomes dangerous. It spills into manipulation, obsession, addiction. In its purest form, sexual energy is sacred. But when corrupted by unmet needs, it becomes violent. Not always outwardly, but inwardly. Each time you chase someone to feel alive, you abandon the parts of you that are dying. Each time you seduce to feel powerful, you betray the part of you that is powerless. This is not about shame. This is about truth. And until you name the truth of what lust is really doing to you, it will keep running your life from the shadows. Here's the hardest part to swallow. Lust is not just a thirst for others. It is a thirst for yourself. For your own depths. Your own beauty. Your own aliveness. You seek it in bodies. Because you forgot you had it in your soul. Alchemizing lust into sacred fire. Lust unchecked will consume you. But lust understood will awaken you. The real question is not how to kill your lust. The question is, what can it become? Most spiritual paths have tried to demonize desire, to shame the body, to suppress longing, to exile the erotic as if it were evil. But repression is not liberation. It's just another prison, draped in holiness. True transformation begins when you realize that lust is not the enemy. It is the raw material. Like fire, it can destroy. But like fire, it can also illuminate. This is the forgotten path of sacred alchemy. To take your most primal instincts and raise them into something divine. Let's be clear. You do not overcome lust by pretending it doesn't exist. You overcome it by becoming so radically aware of it that it cannot control you anymore. The alchemist doesn't kill the dragon. He befriends it. He studies its flames. He learns how to use its heat to forge gold. You must do the same with your lust. So how? By listening to it. What does your lust really want? Not the surface answer. Not the fantasy, not the skin, not the escape. But beneath all that, what is it craving? Is it intimacy? Is it connection? Is it affirmation? Is it to feel alive? Is it to finally feel something in a numb world? The moment you ask this, you stop being a slave to your desires and start becoming their master. This is not about denial. It is about sublimation. Sublimation is the ancient art of transforming energy without destroying it. You don't kill your desire. You elevate it. You pour it into your art, into your devotion, into your healing, into your inner power. You become a vessel through which this wild energy can move freely, but not blindly. This is how warriors are born. Not by castrating their passion, but by learning how to aim it. Because here's a truth most people never realize. Your lust is your creative power. It is the same force that births life, that writes poetry, that dances ecstasy into form. It's not just sex. It's the pulse of the cosmos, beating inside your blood. But when that pulse is hijacked by unconscious pain, it becomes destructive. So what do? You bring presence to it. You hold it in your awareness like a sacred fire. You learn how to breathe with it, how to honor it without being consumed by it. You stop chasing what you think will soothe the ache, and instead, you explore the ache itself. When you stop running from lust, you begin to see what it's been trying to teach you all along. That your desire was never just about someone else. It was always a mirror, showing you what parts of yourself you had lost. This is where freedom begins. When lust no longer drives you, but guides you. When you no longer reach for bodies to fill the void, because you've already touched the infinite within your own being. In this state, lust becomes love, desire becomes devotion, and pleasure becomes presence. You do not need to extinguish your fire. You only need to remember who you are while it burns. The sacred lover within, becoming whole beyond desire. What you were chasing in others was always a forgotten part of you. We have walked through the flames. We have seen lust in its rawest form. As ache, as hunger, as compulsion. We have named it. We have listened to it. And we have refused to shame it. Now comes the final step. To transcend it. But not in the way most people think. Transcendence is not about floating away from your body, or denying your desire, or numbing your longing until you feel nothing. True transcendence is when you no longer need to possess what you crave, because you have become what you seek. The lover you've been pursuing in bodies and fantasies was never someone out there. It was the part of you that remembers. You are already whole. And this is the paradox of desire. It arises from the illusion of separation. We crave others not because we are incomplete, but because we've forgotten the fullness within us. You think you're lusting for their skin, but you're really yearning for your own forgotten divinity. And once you see this, everything changes. You stop devouring others. You start embracing yourself. This is when lust becomes a portal. Not to pleasure alone, but to presence. Not to escape, but to embodiment. Not to fantasy, but to truth. You stop asking, who can give me what I lack? And begin living the question, how can I love myself so deeply that I overflow? This is not self-love in the shallow, modern sense. It is sacred remembrance. A reunion with your body, your spirit, your power. You begin to touch life with reverence. You begin to see your desires as sacred messengers, not enemies. And in this presence, even sex becomes something else entirely. Not conquest, not escape, but communion, a holy exchange. Two flames dancing, not to consume one another, but to awaken the fire they both forgot they carried. The sacred lover is not a role. It is not a partner. It is a state of being. You become the lover who doesn't need to be touched, to feel alive. The one who doesn't need another body, to remember their own soul. This is where the hunger ends. Not because you've destroyed it, but because you've fulfilled it. At the source, you no longer chase. You radiate. You no longer burn with longing. You glow with remembrance. The fire that once devoured you has become the fire that illuminates you. This is the gift of lust. Not its satisfaction, but its transformation. Not the pleasure of the flesh, but the awakening of the soul. So let it burn. Let it carve you open. Let it teach you what you thought you came to escape. Because in the ashes of your craving, you may just find something you lost long ago. Yourself. The one who masters their desire becomes unshakable. The one who understands it becomes divine.